Don't Unfriend Me Nation. What are we doing?
What's up, everybody? It's Ryan Weaver. I am on the Don't Unfriend Me show, otherwise known as The Dumb Show, with host Matt Spear. You guys can find the show at The Dumb Show on social media or thedumbshow.com.
It's the morning, isn't it?
It is.
I was thinking,
definitely a morning.
I was thinking, could I do that? And I was like, well, we should do the Star Spangled Banner every morning, but then would we be required to stand?
Yes.
Because I do that. Like, I don't know about your house, but at my house we do that. Star Spangled Banner comes on, national anthem, hand over the heart. We stand up too. Sporting events, doesn't matter. It comes on, we stand up, and people are like, yeah, well, do you stand up when it's on the TV? Yeah, we do. We do stand up when it's on the TV. So now, how do you feel? And then Mike does too, and that's not the easiest damn thing in the world. So show some respect. Do you guys do that in your house, or are you just kind of past that?
Honestly, we're not watching that many sporting events where it actually comes up. We're pretty much solely on Hulu and Netflix, where everything's just movies, that kind of stuff.
Right. So communism. So
yes,
I get it.
Basically.
Okay. Makes sense. Good morning, everybody. The Don't Unfriend Me show, also known as the Mike and Matt in the Morning show. Wow, we did it. First time ever. We've done that right.
That's never going to happen again, so that's good.
That's right. We got it done. This is Mike Martinez. Mike, you got to press the button.
Oh,
this
I
is
gotta
Mike's got an intro.
I messed it up. There's a button I got to press.
That's right. Here it is.
Here we go.
Do you sometimes have the urge to eat crayons? No.
Oh yeah, I do.
So absolutely perfect in so many different ways. People are like, hey, it's still dark here. Well, we're up. I mean,
we're trying a new thing.
We're trying a new thing. So explain the 8 and 8 thing. The 8 ball squared.
So, I mean, it's just trying to make it easier for 8 and 8, morning and night. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 8 p.m. Tuesday, Thursdays, 8 a.m.
Yep.
Because for the Marines here, we have to keep it simple, stupid, so we understand what's happening.
Yeah.
So this is really for me. Hopefully it's going to work out time-wise for everyone's commute.
Yeah.
West Coast, East Coast, everything.
It's for me, too. Like, I'll be honest, because it's always bothered me, 8 p.m. this, 9 p.m. that. Is Livy getting blown up? Yeah. If she has stuff from her boyfriend, just tell him to wait. So
that's later.
Just be like, dude,
come on, man.
Just wait. So yeah, that's the thing. So some people are like, oh, it's cold out. It's too early. And I expect this to be a bomb this morning, honestly. Because
I don't have it. Oh man, hold on.
What's up? Oh, I
find the bomb.
Gotta find the bomb.
Got it.
Gotta find a complete crash.
Complete fail. That's it.
Just a mess. Oh, you see, this is how you have to do it. You have to do this. That's the way it should be. So
that's the moment for us.
Because honestly, it's early. People are like, first of all, Matt, do you ever sleep? That's the number one question I get.
Do you sleep? The answer
on this
is no.
show is, do I? No, I don't sleep. No, I don't sleep. We were watching the hockey game till, I don't know, 12:30. Then we started watching Narcos, and then Olivia's like, I'm tired, and I'm like, don't be a wimp. She's like, I got to be up in like 4 hours, and I'm like, suck it up, Buttercup. Some of you might notice that my eye in the morning. People always ask me about my allergies too. This is just a let's talk about Matt show.
It is. I mean, it is all about Matt.
It always is. I mean, right. It should just be the Matt show. But let's go ahead and. But that little redness, wrong size. This one, I just touched that eye right there just to get a little bit of the morning tears out of the way, and it turned bright red. That's dermatographia, and
That's a very big word.
It is, and it essentially is a city in Nova Scotia. It was named after Nova Scotians who were Spaniard Vikings. Yeah, this is a true story. They were in World War II. They went ahead and created the Peace Corps and Tupperware. The dermatographians. These are little things you find out on this show.
Yeah,
it's not made up. It's real. Stop. So anyway, dermatographia, and if you break down the word and the etymology of the word, if you break down derma, which is from epidermis, which is skin, and to graph is to write or to plot, then you have skin that you can write on, essentially, in the Latin. So dermatographia means skin that you can write on. So when I touch my skin, specifically on my neck, but even on my back or my arms with a scratch, it will turn bright red and raise up. And this was the whole thing after Ethan got his spanking. And of course, we all know the story where CPS knocked on my door. The photograph they took, which I said, why are you taking pictures of my son's bare bottom? Isn't that a little weird? And they literally went white. I'm like, why are you taking naked pictures of my children? That's when I think CPS realized that all of them were going to lose their jobs, and they did. Every single one got fired over what happened. But Ethan's skin raised after a normal spanking, which is completely legal in the state of Virginia. Corporal punishment is not something that you should embrace. Oh, I'm going to beat my kids today. But if you want to give your kids a spanking or a swat on the ass, you have every right as a parent to do so. And yeah, I've disciplined my son or daughter a handful of times, and I will stand by it till this day that it is a key part of growing up. But the dermatographia is inherent in my children too. So when he got his spanking, it got all red and raised up, just like you saw in my eye. So of course they're like, yeah, he beat him with a freaking truck, and and he's abusing him. And I'm like, dude, because it looks bad. You should see when I get scratched by a cat or I go get a haircut, my back of my neck is like literally like.
Did they pull the PTSD card on you?
They tried. Yeah. One of them did mention PTSD, and I said it's PTS. I said it's not a disorder. It's not herpes, bro. It's something that can be cured. It's something that people can navigate through. And detectives like, oh, okay, listen, I'm sorry, I'm a vet too. I'm like, no, you're not. You're a dick. The whole thing was just a complete. We haven't talked about this, but I know Erica. Erica knows all about it, and we talked about it. So they came to my house. Ethan, this is during COVID, stressful times. There's no doubt. I was angry from the way I talked to my kids. I was too forceful. I got used to not sitting down and being patient and getting into the rigmarole and raising my voice and lazy parenting, right? Now, when people go there and go, oh, he was terrible and he was, screaming. Yes, there were times where I would be very loud, and that's how I project. But certainly nothing to a physical sense. But CPS got called because Ethan got a spanking, and Hayden had her aunt and uncle feeding her crap, trying for over 2 years to try to get Hayden and Ethan away from us so they could have them when they can't have kids. They've tried, and they were like, we don't agree with their parenting. We're going to take their kids. We're going to come into their home and pretend to be their family and be kind to them and love them and send them presents and say how great of parents they are, but all the while playing a Machiavellian scheme to take the children. So this whole thing, she got Hayden to call CPS and call Child Protective Services, and they came to my door, and I was arrested. And the police came and said, Mr. Spear, can we talk to you? And of course, at that point, I look at my wife and I go, I'm going to jail, so you need to. And she's like, what? Why? And I said, because this is the way this works. There's a detective in a plainclothes there. There's not going to be a plainclothes. So I'm going to jail. And she's like, I don't understand what's going on. I said, well, either do I, but we'll figure it out. And then, of course, they took me out and handcuffed me in front of my neighbors. My neighbors drove by, and I'm sitting here the whole time just going, I don't know what this is about. And I asked him, I said, am I under arrest? And he goes, well, we want to have a conversation. And I said, I understand that. Am I under arrest? And he goes, yeah, you're going to be placed under arrest. And I said, okay. And he said, where's the warrant? Where's my arrest warrant? And he goes, well, that's back at the station and we have that digitally. And I'm like, and then I'm like, really? Okay. So that's, and then he started, asking me questions. And I said, listen, man, I want to help. I don't know what this is about, but you've already started the investigation before you told me I was under arrest, and you still haven't read me my rights. And he says, well, we don't have to read you your rights and Mirandize you until you're at the station. And I said, that's interesting. Then stop asking me questions. Mm-hmm. So put me in the back. He was a nice guy. He's a Marine. And about 20 minutes into the interview, the first part, he was like all puffed up like a bantam rooster as I'm sitting there in handcuffs in a plastic chair trying to discern what's going on. And then he finally said, well, here's what we've got. And he lays this litany of stuff in front of me at 30, 40 pages of notes, Mike, over a spanking. And I'm like, so the first thing I thought was, you see people in these situations all the time who go, I'm innocent. And of course, I don't know what the charges are, but I'm not going to be that guy. Mm-hmm. Like, I take ownership for what I do. So he finally goes, there's been a case of child abuse in the home for your daughter and your son. And tell me about an incident where your son was forced to be outside naked in the snow for over 2 hours. And as he's crying and tears are going down his cheek and he's on the glass door, his fingers and hands are stuck to the glass because it's so cold, trying to get in, and you wouldn't let him in. And I said, what?
Yeah, that is the most far-fetched thing.
When? And then he goes, tell me about a time where you choked your daughter and picked her up and slapped her across the face. And I said, never. I said, I've wanted to, but never. And they started just, I realized this was much more serious than I thought. Mm-hmm. Whatever it could have been, would have been. I thought it had to do with the sites. Like, I thought it had to do with, I said something that they considered to be derogatory. I was waiting for the FBI to come in and say, hey, you divulge national secrets or some shit. And when I started hearing this, I'm like, I stopped and I looked at the detective and I said, wait a second, I'm going to answer. I don't want a lawyer. I'll answer every one of your questions. But is this a criminal investigation into child abuse? And he goes, yes. And I said, so all the dots started to connect, mm-hmm. right? So I started figuring it out, because that's the way my mind works. So I'm like, there's something, this is like, is Ashton Kutcher here? Am I getting punked? So mm-hmm. he started saying these things. Do you use a drone to monitor your children and force them to run 3 miles every morning with no breaks and no water? And if they stop, you'll spank them because you're watching them on a drone. And I'm like,
what kind of reality are they living in? Like, this just sounds like everything was so coached, being like, oh, this is hitting this aspect of whatever charge they need. Like,
right. Dude, wait, it's hilarious. And then, you're a member of the SEAL teams and you worked for a counter-terrorist unit. Is that correct? And I'm like, no. They said, well, why don't we talk about the 172 guns you have in your house?
It's a very specific high number.
And I'm like, I said, first of all, are you offering to help with my acquisition of more firearms?
Yes.
Because
I would love to have that.
The answer is yes. I said 172 guns. I said, bro, who do you think I am?
Obviously, you're running a militia.
I know. That's what I was wondering. I'm like, who do you think you're talking to? And I said, everything you're saying has some semblance of truth in it, but it's completely filtered through the eyes of a child or somebody who's trying to do me harm. You realize this. So then he asked me about this spanking with Ethan, and I told him, and he goes, stand up. I stand up, and he takes the cuffs off. So if you're going to, an officer will tell you they're taking the cuffs off for a reason, because they don't want you to be stupid and they don't want you to freak out. He didn't even do that. And he put his arm on my shoulder and goes, you're just a father. He's like, you're going home today. And I'm like, okay.
See, and the way you just said that, I automatically don't trust it, because that's now you're trying to be my friend. Now you're trying to do whatever.
And cops are not your friend. I love police officers. I love the thin blue line, but they're not your friend.
No.
Not in that situation. Nobody's your friend. So, of course, I'm hesitant. And then he goes, I'll be right back. And then he comes back, and I've got an appointment with the magistrate. which means that the investigation's over. So now I know something's interesting. So like, I'm like, this guy's really like on my side. This is weird. So I started talking to him, asking him some questions. The investigation's over. And I told him, you know, what's been going on at home, COVID, stress, losing of jobs, tempers up, raise my voice. But these are the things I don't do, right? And I think if you watch my shows during that time, I was just angry. I was just pissed off. I mean, I was just mad. But that doesn't necessarily manifest into physical abuse. And there is such thing as mental abuse. And I understand that. I think if you ask my kids that, there was never any cussing or degrading them or anything. But it was like, what in the hell are you doing? You know, like, son of a bitch, not again. You know, why are you stealing your mother's credit card? Like literally to a 12-year-old, right? Or why are you taking money from the neighbors? Why are there 300 candy wrappers in your frickin' bedroom? Frustration. So anyway, we go through the whole thing, and I get my court date. The prosecutor is a Soros DA.
Of course.
Completely Soros in the Commonwealth. She has seen my show. She knows LCPS, the Loudoun County. I went after Loudoun County for their practices on the transgender bathroom incident, the library incident with some of the books. They know me. They don't like me. They don't like me because I call them out for their shit. I mean, Ruth Marks, she was fired. I'm not saying that I had anything to do with it, but I know I played a large portion in it, along with Matt Walsh and Brandon Michon and everybody else who talked about this. They know who I am. And this turned into a massive witch hunt. And it's insanity, man. I mean, if you saw something. So I sat down with Olivia. I had to come back. So I went back to the home. The detective said you can go home. I went to the desk sergeant. I went to the supervisor, and I went to the arresting sergeant. And I went to the magistrate. Magistrate looks at the case and he goes, Mr. Spear, how long have you lived in the United States? Told him. You ex-military? Mm-hmm. You work for a local company as a VP? Uh-huh. He's like, and you spanked your son? I said, yes. And he goes, your court date is for November, blah, blah, blah. Have a nice night. Go home. Keep the peace. And detectives like taps me on the shoulder. He's like, that's like, I've never seen that before. I've never seen that before. In my history, at least you would have an overnight. You would have a mandatory don't go home, stay out of the house for a week. The fact that he's letting you go, released on your own recognizance with no bail. Yep. This is weird.
And that should tell you they knew.
Bullshit they knew they fucked up. They knew they fucked up. They just knew. And so I got permission from all of them to go home. So I go home. CPS had my wife in the house for 4 hours. And when she said, I'm willing to have the conversation outside, they said, well, if you don't have it inside, we're going to take your kids. So they blackmailed her, got her inside. She's distraught. She has no idea how to deal with this stuff. And they start just grilling her, hitting her over and over and over. And then they had her sign a piece of paper, which was like an agreement that certain things couldn't happen. And one of the things on like subtitle 46 on page 27 says that I can't come home. And if I come home, this contract will be null and void and they'll take the kids. But I got the desk sergeant, I got the magistrate, I got the first lieutenant, I got everybody saying, go home. And I even asked them, I said, are you sure I go home? Because my wife just said, CPS said I can't go home. And they're like, CPS doesn't control us. They have absolutely no authority. Once you're arrested, it becomes us. You are not on any charges. Go home. So I went home. Next day at 10 a.m., I get a phone call from CPS and they say, Mr. Spear, we want to talk to you. We want to have a sit down and ask you the same questions we asked your wife. And I said, that's fine. But my lawyer said, don't fucking talk to CPS no matter what. Don't talk to anybody unless you talk to me first. He's Marine Corps, by the way. Great guy. So I get my lawyer involved and I just go to CPS and I'm calm as can be, cucumber. And I'm just like, hey, do me a favor. I want to talk to you. I want to be heard. I've got my own story to tell. I want to address these ridiculous allegations that are just so far-fetched that it's incredible. And but I can't do that without my lawyer. So my lawyer would appreciate if you would call them so we can set up a time to interview. Say, Mr. Spear, we're going to do that for you, but you're still going to need to answer these questions. And I said,
that's not how that works.
I said, I understand what you're saying, but that's not how this works. I need you to call my lawyer because he's asking. And she says, fine. Once we talk to your lawyer, are you going to be coming down? And I said, ma'am, no. not unless I have my lawyer. I'm sorry. You guys are coming after me for criminal investigation. Like, sir, we're not coming after you. We're just trying to protect the children. And I'm just like, okay, you know what? Fucking just like, I wanted to lose my shit, but I didn't. I was just like, you know what? Sure. You want to talk to me? You can, but my lawyer will be present. 2 o'clock hits, 2:30 hits. My wife goes out every day like she always does, stays at the bus, and Ethan isn't on the bus. She comes home frantic. She's like, Ethan's not here. And I said, okay, well, don't worry, but call the school. You maybe got held over. I mean, there's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. Calls the school, and the school says, Mrs. Spear, we regret to inform you that Ethan and Hayden have been taken under protective custody of Child Protective Services. Have a nice day. And hung up. And we're like,
what the?
So we call my lawyer, and I'm flipping out. It's Friday at like 3 o'clock. And I'm like, I got 2 hours to get my kids. I got to get my kids in 3 hours. 2 hours. Or they're going to be in foster care for 48 hours over the weekend. This is ridiculous. Of course, the kids are like, this is an adventure. It's like going to grandma's house. But they don't know. Mm-hmm. And of course, the plot is my daughter and son lied to CPS at the counsel and grooming of her aunt and uncle, and took stories of punishment and turned them into something that you would see in a phantasmical world of fantasy and Europia, and turned it into like that I'm like Harry Potter's, aunt and uncle, for God's sake. Mm-hmm. I'm not the victim here. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind kids were, punished or spanked and they had their time, but certainly not anything, even a scintilla of what was accused. Anyway, so I started finding texts. I started doing my own investigation. I went to the doctor, dermatographia. We got that diagnosed in the family. We went ahead and did cite cases that were thrown out at the Supreme Court and state level based on corporal punishment. An exact same situation happened to me where a child was stealing from school. Well, my son was stealing, my daughter was stealing, incessant lies, and a mom spanked her kid, and they took the kid away, and she fought it in court, and she won. Well, that case right there had sunk the prosecutor. So essentially, my lawyer just comes to me and he goes, dude, this is not going to go to court. There's just no way. This is going to get thrown out. They even charged me with the wrong thing. Instead, should have been domestic battery or domestic violence, right? And they charged me with contributing to the delinquency of a minor, which means taking a kid out of school, not having them go to school, mm-hmm. or giving them alcohol, or giving them a Playboy magazine, or giving them a cigarette, things that are ultimately making a child delinquent. And even the judge in my first hearing goes, contributing to the delinquency of a minor. What? And she goes, I'm not sure I understand what the charge is. And she goes, well, blah, 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 the prosecutor says. And she goes, this should be, if this is what you're accusing Mr. Spear of, this should be domestic violence and domestic battery. Why isn't he being charged with what you're accusing him of? And she's like,
they don't have a case.
Because they don't have a fucking case. So my lawyer is sitting there. So the judge goes, and she goes, we need a continuance on this. We're pushing this until after the holidays. And then the prosecutor says these words, well, we respectfully agree with Your Honor, and we will reconvene this case on January 15th if we deem it necessary to do so.
Yeah.
So here I am, $10,000 out of my pocket. I already know where this is going, and I'm like, screw it. I'm stepping on the gas. So I investigate. I mean, dude, I tear this thing apart. Like I get a 14-page report from CPS, 14 pages. The prosecutor, or my defense attorney, he goes, dude, I've seen people who have literally murdered their kids with less of a frickin' file than you have. This file is insanity. The things that are being woven. And so I went down, I broke it all down. I got testimony. I got the aunt and uncle on frickin' video. I got them on phone calls admitting things. I got text where they're like, you darling angels deserve parents who will love you, and you'll be in our arms soon. We'll be taking care of you. Oh, dude, shit, like just completely grooming my kids to. So they came out to the house, and they took them to the Jelly Bean Factory, took them to Oakland A's games. They took them to Disneyland. They took them everywhere. And this was during COVID. So they were locked down for 2 years, and then all of a sudden the aunt and uncle come in, and they're like, we want to go to aunt and uncle's forever. Who wouldn't? They're kids. And they complete. Do you want to talk about grooming? So needless to say, when you see that little red line, now you know what dermatographia is. There you go.
That is
it's a
the
segue.
Biggest explanation.
Well,
how to get there.
We added 30 minutes to the show, so I had to kill it. Listen, it's CPS. Oh, and here's the long and short of it. The detective didn't even show up to testify.
Well, yeah, because you knew there's no reason to get railroaded.
Right. So he didn't even show up. So that's number one. So their case. So and then the prosecutor, my defense attorney walked in and laid some stuff down on the desk and said, this thing's not going to court. If you guys do this to my client, he's going to own the department. He's going to own the state. You know what's going to happen. He's like, this isn't the guy you do. She's like, and she goes, oh, I know. I've seen his show. And my attorney goes, you've seen his show? What is that supposed to mean? Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, he's very opinionated. He's like, he is opinionated, and he's exercising his First Amendment. Does that have something to do with why this case is brought up, and how have you seen his show? So there's a conflict of interest right there, because obviously she's liberal. Obviously she doesn't like me. So this whole thing comes, and then they dismiss all charges with extreme prejudice.
Ooh, which is...
That's the best you get.
Yep.
That's saying if you want to sue these fuckers, you could go ahead and sue these fuckers. And extreme prejudice only means it sounds worse than it is. It sounds almost like this guy's so innocent, he should basically take off and sue everybody. And that's not what extreme prejudice. It means you can't be charged for these things again. Everything in this case essentially it cannot be brought up again ever in court. It is completely stricken from the record. But I still had to pay $2,000 to have it expunged from my record. Still in the process. I had to go down and get fingerprinted again to get my fingerprints taken out. The whole thing is this. CPS, and we're going to talk about this today, about this officer, and the sign of authority creates a certain level of respect that people have. Mm-hmm. And I must warn you that it's okay to love the police. Because you can call me a bootlicker if you want. I absolutely respect the police. I respect fire. I respect EMS, veterans, everything else. Because I understand the level of service it takes. Plus, my father was a fire captain. My uncle was a homicide detective and a street cop. So I've got a lot of respect. But when it's your ass on the line, it's okay to be respectful, but they are not your friends. No. And even fire. If you have a fire in your house, you're not talking to the fireman either. And if you are, everything you're saying can be used against you. You need to understand this. You have to be careful because they're not there to help you. They're there to catch you. That's their job. And when it comes to domestic battery, or it comes to a fire in the house, when it comes to murder of a spouse, the man is always the first suspect. Always. So you gotta be careful. So we'll talk about that today because we got something to talk about when it comes to that. Mike's going to bring something to the table.
One thing I'll add to that is my father is a retired detective. My father-in-law is a retired police chief. And my brother-in-law is a current sergeant down in Florida. The biggest advice they always give, as soon as you start getting questioning, you shut the hell up. You don't say any more until you figure out what's going on. And then if you need to get a lawyer, there is no more conversation. You talk to your lawyer. Mm-hmm. Just as Matt said, they ask all these questions to pull this information out of you, so they can be like, "Yep, you did this. You did all these things to catch you."
Yep.
They start asking questions. You ask them exactly what Matt said. Am I under arrest? Am I detained? What are the charges you're trying to bring against me? If you don't like the answers, guess what? Shut up. Call a lawyer. We're done.
Or say la vie. Am I under arrest? No. Then this conversation's over. And you'll be hearing from my lawyer. It's not a TV show. Know your rights. They have absolutely no right to detain you unless there is a current investigation in place. And they're saying, well, we have an investigation. Outstanding. What are you investigating specifically? What charges? Well, we're trying to uncover that. No. You're not going to go digging for shit because you're going to find it. If you don't have charges, if you don't have an idea that a crime has been committed, then you have no reason to talk to me. Now, this isn't a First Amendment audit. This doesn't mean where you bring out your phone and start recording the situation. It means you know your rights and you're firm with your rights, but you're also willing to help. It's so important to say that. I'm willing to help, and I'm willing to help in this investigation. However, I'm not going to self-incriminate.
Yes. And be respectful.
Always.
The second you go the other way, now they're going to find something to get you.
Yeah.
Stay respectful, stay humble, help where you can, but don't push too far to where you're going to do something that's going to ultimately incriminate you.
So I want to thank this, not shifting a little bit, I want to thank the Spreely viewers who are on right now. I don't even know. I hope we're on Spreely. I mean, we can check for me. Rumble, we're getting Mike up to speed on how to check the chat. Yep. He's learning. So if you're on there, you can say hello. Mike is monitoring chat this morning. Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show. Welcome to our morning. We think we're going to start off with the national anthem every morning and do a little thing, but we're trying to implement that. And I think that would be a good thing to start and kind of get back to our days of the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem and putting your hand over your heart. It's kind of apropos for the morning. So imagine something like that starting shortly, and we'll add that into the show. What do we do here? We talk about geopolitics. We talk about current events, world events. Mike, give everybody a 30-second synopsis of who you are and why you're important.
I would say, I don't know if I would say I was important. Just I'm a Marine who served in Afghanistan. I don't know how to watch my step, so I ended up getting blown up. And from there, it just kind of trickled to I was blessed with some organizations and some people who got me down a path to allow me to continue to serve in different ways. And I'm also now to where I have also been blessed to get enough property that I can have my own little farm, and my wife continue to bring home more animals than I know what to do with, or know that they're there half the time. Because once, and I know in the chat they said before, once a gun is like getting a chicken. Once you get one, you look in the backyard, now there's 40 of them, and you don't know how they got there.
That's fair. They just pop up all over the place.
They do. And the horses, they just seem to multiply somehow, and I don't know how it happens.
I got to get out to your property.
You've been invited. You just haven't shown up.
Okay. I tried to explain this. So it's interesting because, you know, the interesting thing I think about veterans, and it's probably one of the most accurate statements, is they need that camaraderie.
Yes.
They have to have it. They have to have that person who they feel comfortable with, who understands what they're talking about. And see, I wasn't going to do this. See, I can't believe you're making me do this. I wasn't going to do this, but I was going to wait like till it meant something, because now it seems I'm like that prepubescent girl who falls in love with the boy across the seat from her. And then, you know, 5 minutes later, she's in love with somebody else. So it's just going to seem kind of shallow but here, just take it anyway. The camaraderie that I'm talking about in the military is so important. And a lot of vets don't realize it while they're in. You don't really realize it, that even the douchebags and the shitbags, you miss everybody. You just miss the camaraderie, even the ones that you didn't like, because it all created something that was just so amazing. And I'll be honest, man, when I went through my drug addiction and my habitual addiction to the pain pills for all the damage that was done, I didn't need friends. And in fact, I ostracized myself from people and destroyed relationships that I coveted and cared about. You know, I wish I could tell you that I'm Ben Shapiro and my life's perfect and, you know, I'm this awe-inspiring, godly person. And this is the problem with the talking heads, is none of them describe that they're flawed. The only one who does a really good job is Dan Bongino. Dan he's a humble bragger, and he is an extremely arrogant, overconfident human being, but he's also very self-critical and admits that he's flawed, he's a sinner. And there's other, I mean, Glenn Beck says it, I'm a sinner. You don't tell us how you're a sinner, right? You say, oh yeah, I'm a flawed man. Oh, really? How are you a flawed man? Bill Maher does a great job of it. Bill Maher's like, dude, I like prostitutes, I smoke weed, I'm wrong a lot, I say things that people don't like. I mean, he's a flawed man. So I've always tried to emulate the same thing, but I'm not perfect. And I know that about myself. But the interesting thing is that when I came off that medication, the one thing I needed more than anything was friends. But I didn't surround myself with those people. And as I was sitting on the corner of a bed with with a Glock 19, and I wanted to end everything because the amount of dopamine and opiates left my body, I was left without any ability to create serotonin and create dopamine naturally in my body, because the medicine had been doing that for me for 12 years, that I was in a spiral that I didn't know I was in. And massive depression hit, and I almost ended it that morning. And what did it for me was a knock on the door, and this is kind of funny, sad, and honorable, or self-confidence boosting. Is 9 police officers showed up to the call, because most of them knew me. They knew my history, and they knew my uncle, who was in town as a very prolific detective, SWAT, homicide. I mean, this guy was well known in Bakersfield. And they all showed up, and you had 2 guys with shotguns, and then you had 6 guys walk in the door. And they all know who I was. And nobody drew. Nobody made me feel uncomfortable. I went into my billiard room and sat down, and I had 6 officers with their hands on my shoulder asking me if I'm okay. And their job, once they do that, is to arrest you and take you down for psychological evaluation. In fact, you're going. You're going no matter what.
Yep. But
they're going to make it feel like it's your idea. And I know the tactics. And they're like, Matt, you need to go talk to somebody. And, that was really hard for me, because I'm looking at people who I idolize. And so they start talking, right? They start talking about their service, start talking about how officer involved shooting. Another guy had that. And he goes, you got to go talk to somebody. Have you ever talked to anybody outside of your service? No, I haven't. They're like, come on down, come talk to him, and we'll make sure you're taken care of. So of course I go down, right? And I'm not in cuffs. They take me back in the car. I've done ride-alongs with some of these guys. They knew who I was, but they also brought enough guns in case I decide to go the other way. And the fact that they brought 8 made me feel very honored. I was like, wow, that's. I even asked him. I said, why so many?
Why'd you need that many?
It was 8 or 9. I don't know. I was like, I even asked him in the back of the squad car. He's like, I'm like, why'd you guys bring so many guys? He's like, have you seen yourself in a mirror? Do you know how fucking big you are? No, dude, you're armed. We know you know how to use them, and you're a big dude, bro. He's like, we brought enough guys to make sure that we would be safe.
That's enough of a compliment, right?
Yeah. So I was like, all right, I feel good. For a Navy guy, I'm sure they would have brought at least 12 for Mike.
I mean, they'd have to bring the SWAT team for that. Someone's got to carry me out of it, obviously.
Well, obviously, because you're not walking. So, so I'm in the squad car and I go down, and then of course, they take my shoelaces. They freaking the cop leaves me for 5 minutes, and the evaluation place puts me in under suicide watch. Mm-hmm. And the cop's like, no, this isn't, no, wait, stop. This isn't what's supposed to happen. This is a voluntary, this guy's okay. He's coming off of medication, and they throw me in there. They put me in a freaking white schmuck, give me rubber slippers. And I'm sitting here going, what the, I'm like, I'm going to kick the shit out of every one of those lying sons of, and I'm like, so the psychologist come in, Mr. Spear, and I go, stop. He said, I'm not fucking crazy, okay? I'm not suicidal. I was having a down moment. You got the wrong guy. I shouldn't be here. I said, look me in the eye. Do I look crazy to you or pissed off? And he goes, you look pissed off. And I said, I ain't crazy. Get me out of here. And he's like, Mr. Spear, we'll be right back. So he comes back. He's like, there's been some mistake. I said, you think?
Yeah.
I said, you think? I don't know why this shit always happens to me, dude. So I'm like, probably about 3 hours later, he goes, would you like to call your wife? I said, no, I want to go home. So I call Olivia, and she's like, baby, are you okay? I said, honey, I want to thank you for doing what you thought was best. Thank you for calling somebody. I was in a very bad state. I got what I needed from the police. Thank you very much. And I'm going to be coming home. So can you please, for the love of God, come pick me up?
Come get me.
So the doctors come in, they go, Mr. Spear, we're sorry. This is normal during coming off of opiates and everything else. And these are normal feelings you have. Have you thought about getting on an SSRI? And I said, you want me to jump into one pit to another? No, I'll be fine. I had a moment. And honestly, that moment's done. And I'm not a guy that half commits. If I put a gun in my hand and it goes to my temple, that's it. It's over. It didn't happen. I will never do that. And that was my road to mental health recovery. And it was, this is what got me on the veteran kick of Suicide Hotline and helping veterans. And the whole reason I bring it up is because since then, I've had people in Houston like Virgil. I've had next door neighbors like Will. I've had my buddy Will Fisher. I've had my neighbors here in the neighborhood who I love them all, but I don't have a relationship with any of them. And the reason why, and this is, we're getting to it, so just hang tight. And I know you haven't said shit, but that's just the way this is going to work today, because you're going to have your moment someday. Is I whether it's Jake or Pete or Tina or anybody around the whole neighborhood, I adore them. But I have ostracized myself from them because I've realized one thing is that I'm only acceptable to people in small quantities, because I am an opinionated, brash, unfiltered human being. And who you get on this show is exactly who I am in life. Mike will tell you
were an acquired taste.
I am an acquired taste. And I am exactly who I am at all times. I don't put on any airs for anybody. I have no problem. And that's just who I am. So I've pulled myself away from people because I don't want to hurt people. And in that process, I've lost something that makes me human, is having to care about other people's feelings. So like most things, the things we most desperately need in life, we don't get, and we get less of, that will usually help us out of a place. So the reason I was going to mention that is Olivia and even the kids, since Mike's been here, has been, dude, you're so much more patient. You're so much more relaxed. Now, of course, Mike's like, really? He's relaxed.
This is relaxed.
This is relaxed. But for me, it's been therapeutic. The bad dreams aren't happening nearly as often. The waking up in a cold sweat, or waking up feeling a certain way, or being pissed off or being angry because we have this has been an amazing thing. So my point to it is, if you're in a position where you are pushing things away from you, and the reason why you're doing that is because you desperately need those things. But like most veterans do, we push away the things we need the most. We need to talk. We need camaraderie. We need to be loved. We need to be cared for. But we don't necessarily embrace those things when we need them, and we do the opposite, which has a spiraling effect into a darker place. So I wanted to thank you, because it's been, just a few weeks, but I can't tell you how nice it's been having somebody around. And I know I don't say that enough, but I appreciate your camaraderie and your friendship. That's what I was going to say. That took me fucking 40 minutes to say. So there you go.
Well, I appreciate that, because honestly, it's the same for me, because my story is pretty similar. That when I was in the hospital, same type of thing of, I had so many injuries, they hopped me up on so many different drugs. I mean, I was on 6 or 7 of them all at the same time. I know there's a 6 weeks period when I was at the hospital that I don't remember, because I was basically that high. And then I had a night to where my nurses forgot to give me my meds, and my IV medication ran dry. So I had withdrawals so bad that they had to hop me up for days just to get me even again.
Yeah.
And then after that, it took about 3 months to get off of them. And that was still being in the hospital with a pain management team in order to actually get that down. And then after that is when, I hit some very hard depression for probably about 8 years.
Yeah.
And the same thing you're talking about, to where you need those veterans, and you need that camaraderie. For me, initially, it was finding my sled hockey team. Because before...
Sled, not slut.
Sled.
It sounded like slut. I just want to make sure people understood. They're like, what the fuck's a slut hockey team?
Well, that's a whole other thing that happens in Canada.
That'd be the Detroit. That'd be the Detroit Red Wings. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
But basically, like, when I got out of the hospital, one of my guys that got killed, he's buried at Arlington, Eric Ward. So my unit out of Camp Lejeune, they would come up here all the time, and there was a house up here that we would stay at, and then we would go to Arlington at some point during the weekend. And that basically became our party house, but then also our spiraling house. Because every time we would come up, start drinking, and then you just go down the drain.
Yeah.
And that spiral happened for years, to where, like, I had to cut off my guys, my unit, because it put me in such a bad place. And then I had to have someone that kind of kicked me out of it.
Yeah.
To where that's where I found my sled hockey team. So it's like, hey, I'm getting back with the guys. Like, one, I get to be competitive again. I get to go out and hit people and not get in trouble for it. But it's the banter in the locker room. It's us going out after just to get a meal, just hanging out and having that camaraderie and that brother and sisterhood. That's what you're missing, and that's what most vets. And I know a lot of my guys got out. That's what they're missing, because they all went home. They don't have anyone around that they served with that understands what they went through, why they're feeling that way, and why they're acting a certain way. But when we get together, like, it can be months since we've seen each other, but as soon as we all get back, the jokes start flying, and it's just like we saw each other yesterday. And I know, like, with this show, I would almost say, like, you kind of forced me to do it.
Yep.
But it, as you said, it has been so therapeutic and giving me that drive again.
Yeah.
It's definitely mutual.
It's awesome, dude. I still want to go back why you said I was an acquired taste. I don't know if I like, that's not a very complimentary thing to say. Listen, I am an acquired taste. But the best thing I can explain is you have somebody who is, listen, you got to take the good with the bad. Like, I'm a break in case of emergency type guy. You break the glass, then you pull the handle. That's who I am. When you need somebody who's going to go through a wall for you, if you need somebody to help bury the body, if you need somebody who you're in a high risk situation and you need help getting out, I'm your guy.
Yep. Call 811, not 911.
That's it. Call me. I'm that guy. But if you need somebody to hang out with and watch a football game and drink beer, I'm probably not your guy. Because even though, okay, I am your guy, but it takes a while to get there. So, like, Mike has there's two Mikes. There's this Mike, then there's Mike cross street. They have carte blanche. Any time of the day, any day of the week, they need something, I'm there. I don't care what it is. Doesn't matter. But it wasn't that way. Because when Mike invited me first, well, Erica, his wife, invited me to come over to their house for his coming home party, I didn't go. It wasn't that I wasn't ready. It wasn't that I wasn't available. It wasn't that I couldn't. I didn't. Because I was dreading going. And it had nothing to do with Mike, and it had nothing to do with Erica. It had to do with the situation of being around people I don't know. And as a person who has spoken in front of 10, 15,000 people in seminars and doing presentations up on stage and talking to, at one point, 3,700 people on this show as the max that we've ever had, and talking to millions of people a month, I don't like to be in situations where I don't know people. So I just called up and I said, tell Mike, he'll understand. Tell Mike this is a vet thing, and he'll get it, and he'll understand. What I mean is that I don't feel comfortable in those situations. And once again, it's because I know I will say something, because I am an acquired taste that will offend and ruin the whole fucking night for everybody, because I don't have a filter. Like, I just don't. I've never had a filter, and I don't want a filter. And I faked it for so long in corporate executive roles where I had to sit up there and take the white fragility training and take the gender neutrality training and the, self-awareness and unconscious bias. I no desire to do that shit. I did the 12 hours of sexual harassment training in the military. I have no desire. So Thank you for saying that. You did invite me over, and I declined. If you invited me over now, I would absolutely show up. Absolutely show up. But not in a group of, not in a party with 20 other people I don't know.
Yeah, no. And see, that's one of those, as soon as my wife said that, it's like, oh, that's easy. Totally understand. Like, that's zero hard feelings on that.
But if you but you have to make the phone call. You can't just not show up to his party, because then it's different, right? You're not taking accountability, but at least I called and I said, I need to talk to Erica. This is the situation. But see, on the other hand, though, because they accepted that, that's when I said Mike needs to be on the show. Like, I'm like, so that's the way people work. So you're missing opportunity to connect with people if you don't try to at least reach out to them on multiple occasions. And there are people who I don't understand, who I look at them and go, I don't like that person. Those are the people I try to connect with more. So that's one thing on this show that people will give me accolades for, is I will take the worst conversations and turn them into a positive. Mm-hmm. The most vile, disreputable type conversations, and in the end, I still leave that person better than I found them. Very rarely has it turned the other way, only once or twice, but I will always try to find commonality in people. So,
but that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what side you're on. If you can't have that conversation,
right,
and have it in a respectful way to where, like, hey, I don't have to agree with you, but if we can get to the point where, you know what, we agree on this one thing.
Yeah.
I don't have to like you. I don't have to be your friend, but I heard you.
Yeah.
I learned something from you. Maybe you learned something from me. And now we'll go about our day, and maybe that'll change something for the better. Or, I don't know, maybe you just got some more content for your folks. But it's one of those, get to a point where you can have those tough conversations, and we're all going to be better for it in the end. Mm-hmm. I know one thing you're talking about for the public speaking. I freaking hate public speaking. I have done a few speeches in front of just more like schools and stuff. I am horrible at it. I can't stand it. For whatever reason, this is okay, but getting in front of people, I would rather be shot at than have to do public speaking. It's just never been my thing.
Well, you're going to figure that out real quick. So, because I'm telling you right now, if you think that this isn't going to turn into an opportunity to talk to people, there are very few duos in this medium like you and I that do it well. There's not many. You even look at Bongino's show. He's got a guy that's like behind the scenes, like Ed McMahon, right? Mm-hmm. To have two front people be able to share conversation and share time and space, who are predominantly alpha, it's not a thing you see very often. So it's a unique dichotomy that people would appreciate. And that's the one thing I've heard is you guys really play off each other well. And you guys must have known each other for years. Did you serve together? I'm like,
about 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
I think that's where we're at.
met him this morning. But that's the veteran relationship. So anyway, listen, good conversation, a little touchy-feely this morning. What's the last time we did that for a while? We're gonna go.
Say that it's happened like 4 times now.
Yeah, but this is therapy. This is why I started this show. I like, if I could bring vets into this and let them feel what this feels like, it's an amazing experience. And it's not for everybody. I mean, some vets would be like, dude, I will shoot you if you put me on camera. Those are the people who need it the most.
Yep. Well, that's Mike.
That's the thing, people, is that when you resist, that's what you need the most. When I didn't want to stop the junk food and I didn't want to work out, it's what I needed the most. When I didn't talk about things that I needed to get off my chest, it's what I needed the most. Here's the other thing. When CPS was called, although it was a horrible situation, I needed to work on my frustration and my anger. And it literally took me just having that instance to be aware of it and control it now. What you need the most is often what you don't want. And if people could stop running away from things, they could solve their own problems.
And you're going to learn from failure, or you're going to learn from those hard situations more than being right every time or having success every time.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not going to get you on a good path. You have to hit rock bottom in order to realize how good it is when you're actually going up and you're learning and you're building and you're learning about yourself. Like, you have to have those bad times. They suck, but you just need to surround yourself with people that are going to get you out of it and build you up and get you in a place to where wherever you want to be, you can get there.
Amen. Holy shit.
All right, now we're
wow. What an intro. Jesse frickin' Waters. Now, listen, I like Jesse Waters, and I like anybody that can wear a tux on the set of Fox News and not have it look like a tux. I mean, he's got the double Windsor going on.
I mean, he's got to look good.
He's dapper.
He's got that flow going on.
He's got the hair going. Yeah, dude, Mike's hair smells amazing. So last night I was sound checking him, and I was reaching over him to get a mic. No, it wasn't like this. I wasn't reaching over. It was like this to get his mic, and this scent permeated my nose. It was mango and tropical passion fruit.
See, I'm a good husband. Whatever my wife buys for herself, I just sneak over, grab it, use it, and then it smells good. I don't know what it is. I don't know what flavor it is.
Yeah,
but I don't know if I'm supposed to eat it or not. But
yeah, that's just a distraction that Mike's gay, because he makes fun of me all the time. But he's the one who's using guava, passion fruit, mango, chamomile tea shampoo.
Listen, I got my Luffy. Yeah. I got my stuff with these little beads in it that apparently does something for your skin.
Yeah,
and
exfoliation, right?
It feels good. I don't know.
Exfoliate. I'll be honest. What do I use for shampoo? I use my beard shampoo for my hair. It's just the way it works. I understand what he's talking about. There's been some times where I've used my wife's shaving cream. And you put that shit on your pink, and it's like smells like somebody just freaking raped a flower. It's the most disgusting stuff in the world. But I will. It's a very smooth finish. I'll tell you, it's not Gillette. Gillette's just like they take some Cool Whip and they throw it in a thing, and you just razor burn. But the women, their shaving cream is quite lovely.
Even the razors, they have these little pad things around them. It feels good.
Yeah, it's called the pink tax. My ass. You have better stuff than we do. Jesse Waters, folks. There's nothing I hate more than when people give the United States government way too much credit.
Yes, and they listen to someone who's like, "Oh, this one guy. I got a guy." Told me this thing.
Dude, I know a guy.
I got a guy for everything.
Dude, I know a guy. There's this guy, and he calls me, and he goes, "Hey, man." And I'm like, "Hey, guy." And he tells me things. He's my guy. Hey, trust me, bro. I got a source. The trust me bros are all over Facebook. I can't stand them. It's like this guy comes on the hockey video I did, which has now been seen 49,000 times.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's crushing. And people are like, this is the most based, multiple perspective, just sticking to the facts video. And everyone's like, he killed him with his skate. It was murder. I'm like, how?
No.
How? I mean,
if he took his skate off and then went after him,
right.
Like Happy Gilmore, it's like, okay, got it.
Right. And it's not like, listen, can I just be honest with you? If you want to kill someone in hockey, the stick is the answer. Yep. And it's taking that stick and hitting him right across the throat as hard as you can and making it look like an accident. Yep. That's the easiest way to do it. Putting somebody in the boards head first, you turn them into a quadriplegic. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of other ways to harm somebody on the ice versus doing a flying judo kick. People need to relax about this. But my whole point is, this guy's like, this was intentional murder, and I know it. I know a guy who plays for the Sheffield Shepherds or whatever. And he said, source, trust me, bro.
Yes, when it's like fourth-hand information and you're now an expert on hockey, politics, whatever the new video is of the day, it's like, all right, just take a breath, look at it.
Yeah.
And that's why I do like that video, because it's not this like, oh, it's 100% murder and this is why.
Yeah.
This is what happened.
Right.
You take what you want out of it, but like this is everything that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
That's it. It's not hard. But here's Jesse Waters' explanation about how the CIA took out Trump because it cut into their drug revenue.
Well, obviously, you got their own drug cartel going on.
Yeah. Let's watch this. Oh, let's not watch this because we don't have any audio. Why do I keep doing that?
I mean, if I was doing it, it'd be a lot worse. So.
Yeah, well, it's listen to it. It's early. Here we go.
Do you remember before the run-up to the Ukraine war where U.S. intelligence said, hey, Russia, we see you guys amassing hundreds of thousands of men on the border of Ukraine. We have communications intercepts. We have satellite imagery. We see what you're doing. You're saying we don't see the whole Western Hemisphere coming up in caravans through Central America into Mexico, right into Texas? Dana, of course we see it. We see exactly what they're doing, and we don't do anything about it. We had a former CIA guy come on primetime the other day, and he said the CIA makes money on the side with drug trafficking. It's like a side hustle because their funding isn't big enough. So they do some, black ops in order to boost their budget and hide it from congressional oversight and then use it for dirty stuff. So that's what they're doing with the drug trafficking. And one of the reasons, one of many reasons Donald Trump was defeated was because the CIA had it with this guy because he was threatening the cash flow, that and the China tariffs, among many other things. So when you threaten the donor money and you threaten the Democrat voters and you threaten the CIA cash flow, it's a problem. Joe Biden is such an agreeable empty suit. He's just letting it all happen.
Wait, you're saying the CIA is funding itself by the drug trade?
Yeah, they take a cut. That's what the former CIA guy told me.
Yeah, and he's full of shit. See, I love it when you have... Listen, I got a guy who also said... And I thought there was that story that, going back to the Dominion servers, were like, oh, it was a CIA and Delta had a shootout trying to get to the servers, all this crap. Like, this is just another conspiracy theorist who has the ear of someone in the media, and now you're getting this bullshit put out there. You know where their money comes from? The Department of the Treasury, where literally the entire government's budget is held. That's where everything comes from. If you honestly think that they're running, sure, back in the 60s, 70s, back in that time, did that happen? Absolutely. Guess what? People got railed for it.
Railed.
So
there's people still in Leavenworth for it.
Yeah, it's like one of those, do people in government go off the rails? 100%.
Sure.
When they actually find them, are they going to do something about it? It depends what party they're in. But if you honestly think that they are running drug cartels to get money, you are batshit crazy. It is not a thing.
No. Now, do they benefit from the DARE program and other programs and initiatives? Yes. Yeah. Do we allow a certain amount of drugs into the United States? Sure. Yeah. There's things that we have done with the cartel to keep the peace and keep it off of U.S. Territory. And there is a unspoken rule between the cartels and the United States that operations that took place during the 70s and the 80s will not happen here, where in Miami you had 3,700 murders related to Colombia, cocaine, and drug running, and the United States said, okay, no more. So you have a choice. We're either going to kill every one of you and we'll assassinate every one of you, which we did plenty of that. We tried that, but every time we did, it was like Al-Qaeda or ISIS, another one would pop up. So a decision was made to allow a certain amount of drugs into the United States and seizures, and we started seeing these things, and it got results. Well, people got railed for that. He's absolutely right. But if you think that we don't put billions into the DARE program and Just Say No program, but also have billions of dollars funded to stop drugs from coming in, whether it be DEA, ICE, et cetera, ATF, it's a big money game. And just like you don't necessarily want to go ahead and solve the problem for cancer, because if you go and look at the funding for cancer and how much money that makes in the U.S. today, that it's just like follow the money. Take a look at what's happening with Pfizer right now. All these vaccine companies, Moderna, Pfizer, they're ready to go bankrupt because people are not getting the fifth, seventh, eighth booster. And they're trying to figure out, well, how do we do this? So you got the U.S. government that has these contracts who agreed to offer it at this price and to do it for free. So they could then make money once COVID was over and got into the redundancy of like the flu shot. Well, that people aren't getting it. And that's hurting their pocketbook. And the insurance companies are sitting here saying, well, we've got this coverage for these shots. And we've got all these shots. Now we have to send them back. They just sent back millions of shots back to Pfizer. Well, that's money. So if Jesse wants to say that the CIA inadvertently makes money by looking the other way, well, I completely agree. Because if you've run any South American operation or counter drug ops or counterterrorism units inside South America, you'll know for a fact that even in the 90s, now what it's like today, I don't know, that you would trade ponies, that certain things would be overlooked for certain information. And when you're working with the CIA, you're working with intelligence apparatuses, you sometimes will look the other way in order to gain the bigger fish or the bigger piece of intel. That, of course. Are you telling me that the CIA has never confiscated cartel money and used that? Of course they have. Absolutely they have. I guarantee they have. Are you telling me that they haven't seized shipments of cocaine and then possibly have used that cocaine to purchase firearms or take guns out of Mogadishu or an annex? Of course they have. You don't think they've traded guns for RPGs and AK-47s and get Kalashnikovs off the black market? Sure. Because one is, you want to do heroin and kill yourself? Great. Just let me have all those Kalashnikovs and those RPGs and let's go ahead and trade ponies. So that's very different than the CIA confiscating drugs and selling them in the United States to justify their budget. The complexity of that and the overall stupidity of that is ridiculous. Can you imagine you're CIA, you're running an op, and all of a sudden somebody walks in with a bag full of freaking cash and they go, hey, this is for this year's annual budget. And you're like, cool, I'm going to go put that in the bank.
Oh yeah, no, like there is, yes.
Let me
is
wash
there
that.
dysfunction in our government? 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to roll in with a bag of money. You know how that works when they roll into Afghanistan to pay off somebody else,
right?
So they can work for them, and it's not the other way around.
Yeah.
So just there's so many things that are wrong with that. But the problem is you get Jesse Waters out here saying that, and there's people that are going to take Fox as gospel, even though it's a whole bunch of BS. What is happening here?
Hold on. The trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro.
I can't stand the trust me, bro thing. I like Jesse. And I think Jesse is great. But even Jesse, as that was coming out of his mouth, seemed uncomfortable with saying what he was saying, right? Yeah, they do, it was the way we explained it is how it happens. There's no doubt that things are overlooked and people look the other way. But to simply say that the CIA has a lack of budget, so they go ahead and they peddle heroin and drugs, it's a little far-fetched, because that's not the way these things work. You guys understand? It's not how it works. So, as I don't know why this is doing this. I'm so sorry. It's lagging. Probably because we've got so much up. There we go. Oh, fuck it. Who cares? Bobby Kidd says, it's funny, this. Fox KKK. Why do they spell Republicans with a K? What are you, do you understand where the KKK came from? Do you understand where Jim Crow laws came from? Do you understand where Japanese internments came from? Do you understand where eugenics came from? Which states didn't vote along with civil rights? Who owns the modern day slave plantations today, which are the inner cities? Are you aware? Or do you just go ahead and throw shit and listen, you have a post that there's some interesting questions, but you just make yourself look like a complete fucktard when you put stuff like that. Why do you think we're fans of Fox? Why do you think we watch Fox? I don't watch Fox. I put on highlights of Fox and CNN to demonstrate their stupidity. We just disagreed with Fox. So to me, first of all, what you did was petulant and childish. Second, it doesn't make any sense. Fox pretends to be a Republican/conservative news channel, which it's not. And to put the KKK there, that should go in front of CNN. So I don't know what you're talking about. But let's go ahead and get to the rest of your question anyway, because I'm in a mood. USA, okay, America, people, but see, English is important.
Words are hard.
I couldn't answer where they are now. I want to see a picture proof of these 200 people. So what he's saying is they just said they got 200 American people out of Gaza, but couldn't answer where they are now. I want to see picture proof of these 200 people. I'm sure they're going to get right on that for you. Okay, let's just, your request is in the proper channels. USA free Gaza, USA free Gaza, USA. Nobody's saying USA free Gaza. Nobody wants to free Gaza. They want to obliterate it off the map. Israel is going to flatten Gaza, and
as they should,
and anyone who stays in there. If you're dumb enough to stay in there after 4 weeks of them telling you to get the fuck out and you're not out, I'm sorry. You're going to get hurt.
Natural selection is a thing. You were warned.
Leave.
Time to go.
I don't want to leave. I don't care. This is called, listen, you can call it conquering if you want to, reclamation of land that was Israel's to begin with. Whatever you want, I don't care. Get out. You're done. You had a chance to expel Hamas for 17 years from your country, and you elected them in and have been supporting them, and you have not risen up and taken your power back. It's time for someone else to do it. And unfortunately, if you stay in country, you're going to die. I'm sorry. I don't know what's unclear about this. Israel gave them plenty of warning to get out. Most countries wouldn't. Did we give the Iraqis 72 hours warning before we were going to bomb them? No, we just fucking laid waste to the entire city. Did you see Baghdad after it was done? Did we give any warnings to the mosques and the hospitals and the community centers and schools that were hit? How do I know? Same way he knows. So I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. It doesn't make any sense to me. Says, yo, my question is, finally, how come nobody's questioning how many Americans Israel has killed so far in Gaza, along with bombing hospitals and refugee camps? Let me ask one more question. No, you can't ask one more question after you already asked a question. You put a question mark and then stop. I don't know how many Americans have been killed by Israel.
How many were killed by Hamas?
That's a great question. That's the one I want to know. Because understand, these are hostages. Now, we may go ahead and have grown a vagina out of our foreheads and decided that we negotiate with terrorists, but Israel doesn't. And you know what? Obama killed 484 Americans with drone strikes. Do you care? No, you don't care.
And how about continuing to delay the Israelis' ground offensive has allowed Hamas to spread out these hostages, which now they're more likely to die. And instead of they just would have went in initially, yes, we're not going to get every hostage back. That's just a reality. But we had a chance to get some of them back if they went in. Now, everything is so fortified. If we get any of them back, that's going to be amazing. So our inaction has ultimately likely led to more hostages being killed. So,
and not only that, you don't care. You don't care. Stop pretending you care. What you care about are the talking points. If you truly cared about those Americans, you wouldn't have let off the conversation. You wouldn't have buried the lead. What you care about is maligning Fox News with the KKK. What you care about is USA free Gaza, where you believe Gaza is Palestine and Israel has no right to claim that land. That's what you believe. And everything else is posthumous to you trying to validate those points. So don't pretend like you fucking care about American hostages. If it was, you would be like, why is Fox News not putting up the names of these hostages? I've had the same questions. You need to understand, though, is that when you put up the names of those hostage, the political wheels will start turning. And it creates more drama and more political slowdown because there will be people who know people and then things will be held off. I'm going to be honest with you. If I was taken hostage in a situation where terrorists had me and it was, I would say, kill me. Blow that fucking place up and kill every one of them and me in it.
100%. Drop a bomb because that is going to be so much better than whatever they're going to do to you.
Kill them.
Whatever torture they're going to get.
Kill them all.
Please drop a bomb.
Drop a bomb. Kill them all. Kill me. Kill them all. In fact, somebody record this event. If I'm overtaken by terrorists, you have my permission to destroy them, their kids, their wives, grandparents, uncles, anyone who's involved in that place who's allowing me to be tortured and interrogated. Please destroy everybody. Because if you think that this battle is between men, you have no idea what you're talking about. These people employ children. They employ women. We have seen this shit. Don't tell me that this is a standard muzzle-to-muzzle English versus American on the soil battle. This is terrorism. They will use whatever means possible. This is just as bad as the Viet Cong putting grenades in rice. These people have no morals. Their only goal is to kill infidels or oppressors. And if you think it's any other way, then you have not been paying attention. Last part of the comment. Dropping, here's the other question that was a run-on. Mm-hmm. How do you plan on saving the hostages when you already admitted that they've been dropping bunker buster bombs and hostages make sense? Smart one. Okay.
Because they have hundreds of miles of tunnels. It's not like one bomb is going to collapse that entire thing.
That's right.
You would probably, for 300 miles of tunnels, you're probably going to need 3,000 bunker busters to get that entire thing. There is no possible way you're going to get all of that. There's likely multiple layers to this tunnel. So, yeah, dropping a couple of bombs is going to do nothing other than maybe ringing their ears if they're in the correct system that's connected.
Or changing the pressure.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something that I'm pretty confident is okay. Yes. That's not the way. Okay, you have 300 miles of tunnel. They're not doing this. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a terrorist by the toe with a 1,000-pound bomb. I'm going to make you go to Allah. Okay, that's not what they're doing.
Did you just come up with that?
Yeah,
that was good.
I just pulled that out of my ass. It's good.
Bravo.
Thank you. You have an applause button if you can.
I was just trying to
find the applause button when I do this. So, thank you. And you only press it once. Are you that type of guy? I pressed the bean multiple times. Bam, 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 bam. All right. So understand this is I'm going to be careful here. I want you to imagine that if you were going to go ahead and your dog or cat got out and you have to find them, are you going to start from your house and work your way out? Or are you going to drive to the boundaries of the furthest you've ever seen your dog and then work your way in? It's an interesting philosophy. And if you take that premise and consider that it's more than likely to take the surrounding area and work yourself in, because if you start from the middle, you have more escape routes, you have more capabilities, and you force your animal here versus forcing your animal out. Now, if you understand that concept, let's imagine that your dog or cat would run into a series of sewer systems, and you want to make sure that you can find your dog near your house or your cat. So you collapse the tunnels on the outer ring by sending in things like maybe you have a drone you can fly, or maybe you have an automated little RC car with a GoPro on it, something like that. And you go ahead and go into these tunnels and you check the quadrants off as being clear. And then you go ahead and you seal off the tunnel with some saran wrap. Shit ton, because I can't say what you would seal it off with. And you slowly push everyone, animal related, into a center spot, collapsing the fucking tunnels behind them. Think. If you think that Israel doesn't know what they're doing, because all I got to do is go to a map, look at that supposed refugee camp that did not have tents. This wasn't tent city, folks. This was an established area where there were refugees. It's like saying New York City is a refugee center. Give me a break, okay? But if you look strategically at where they hit, you will see what they're doing systematically. If you can use your mind of the cat and dog scenario that I just gave you, because you can see the ring of the strikes, folks. It's not hard that they would put saran wrap at the H and slowly work their way in. I mean, duh.
I mean, you're also talking about someone that they have been training for decades on how to fight in these tunnels, how they would go and take this over. Like, they're just going by their playbook. They understand exactly what's happening. They probably understand, if it's not the entire layout of the tunnels, it is a vast majority of it.
That's right.
So they know exactly where to go, where to get in. Yeah, I'm sure there's some new tunnels that...
Yeah, of course there are.
That they still have to figure out, but they also have ways to find those.
That's right.
So they are going by their plan. They are systematically doing this in the way that's going to keep the hostages as safe as possible, the IDF going in as safe as possible, and take out as many terrorists as they can.
It always baffles me that you people sit here and say, Well, look at what the Israelis are doing. Stop. Do you really believe that is a pro-Hamas sentiment? What you're saying is that Hamas are the victims. The victims are the people that Hamas have ruled over and taken control of. And I think if you ask any tyrannical rule, ask their people, do you believe a few of you should die for your freedom? Most everyone would say yes. And whether that be the American Revolution or any other revolution or coup d'etat that's taking place in any country, an exchange of lives for freedom has always been a focus. Now, do these people want to die? No. Should they die? No. But I'm telling you, this is why a terrorist state is a fallacy. There's no such thing. Hamas does not have a head. It does not have a structure system. It is a terrorist organization. There is nobody to put embargoes on. There's nobody to put economic sanctions on. There is nobody to go ahead and have a peace deal with. These people are fucking terrorists. They kill indiscriminately in order to create fear. That's all they want. And negotiations are a Band-Aid to cancer. All ceasefires are a Band-Aid to a cancerous situation. And it's going to monasticize and it's going to grow it's ultimately going to consume you if you allow terrorism to reign. I'm sorry Palestinians are being killed. I really am. They should have done something over those 17 years. They didn't have any money. They didn't have any food. Yes, they did. That's not true. You obviously haven't seen what Gaza looked like. Gaza looked like a Mediterranean cruise center. Go look at some of the pictures before it was flattened. It was a very prominent, very beautiful place. The coastal parts of Gaza were incredible. They had retreats there. They had shopping malls there. They had urban centers there. This isn't a third world country. The Middle East is not full of camels and clay houses, folks. There are portions. Some of it does look like rural Afghanistan. But when you're talking about major cities, it's not the case.
And they're also some of the richest countries in the world.
Give me a break. Give me a break. Those people, they eat maggots out of wood and they drink murky water. No, they don't. Stop it. You've never been there. How do you know? Talk about following what the TV says. Republicans are saying then you're not right if you don't stand up for Israel, then you're not right and you're a terrorist. I haven't heard one Republican say you're a terrorist if you don't support Israel. I've never heard anyone say that. I'll be damned. Whatever, you're done. I'm not giving you one more time. Your whole comment is just idiotic. I don't know what to tell you. I don't understand why he wrote an essay. But Bobby Kid, if you can't bother to vote and or serve, your opinion means nothing. Well, here's the thing. And we'll get back to this. If you don't vote, you're voting.
Yeah, you're just allowing less votes. So the more votes are like, you're still giving your opinion. You're still putting your desires out there by not voting.
That's right.
And you're allowing everyone else to pick for you.
That's right. If you don't vote, listen, okay. Does your vote matter in the national election? No, it doesn't. Not at all. Because there's never been a national election that's been decided by one vote. Okay? So, no. However, when you have people like Lauren Boebert, who wins by like 27 votes or whatever it was, your vote matters. When you have a vote like Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump that was decided literally by 60,000 votes, 90,000 votes, yeah, your vote fucking matters. But here's the thing. If you're in a swing state and you don't vote, you shouldn't be an American. You should be cast out of society. Sorry. If you are in a swing state like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona,
Which is sad because Arizona, when I grew up there, wasn't. But then California screwed it up for us.
California screws up everything. Look what they did to Colorado. I mean, the infestation of California, the Democrats got it best. Destroy their cities in California, which will force a mass exodus of Democratic voters to other states. And this is how you create widespread Democratic rule in major cities. Destroy New York and California, and then your voter base will spread out and Republicans will never win again. It's a brilliant strategy. And wait a second, Matt.
Well, it's working.
They would never do that. Yeah, right. Right? Then why do they keep doing it?
Yeah, then why does San Francisco look like it is?
Why is there poop all over the streets and needles everywhere? Why is San Francisco a complete shithole? Why is Bakersfield County the deadliest county in the country? Are you kidding me? Folks, I went and had spent my summers there. Bakersfield is one of the safest places in the world. It was a bunch of oil drillers. Then they took the oil away. And they took the energy away. So don't give me any crap that Democrats care about their constituents. They don't give a shit. They care about power. They care about votes. So do Republicans. But at least Republicans just screw over the lowest common denominator of our country. They only care about the top 50%. They don't give a shit about the bottom 50%. But at least their party cares about half of America. Capitalism cares about more than any other economic system in the world. You look at socialism, it cares about the top 1%, period. The people in power, the shahs, the ayatollahs, the dictators. You look at capitalism, yeah, it leaves 50% behind. What it basically says is if you want the bottom to move to the middle, then you need the middle to move to the top. And if you don't move, then the top is more than willing to take it all from you. That's the problem, is people don't want to have the work ethic anymore.
No, no one does. They just want everything handed to them, or they want to get their little 15 minutes of fame and expect Twitter or TikTok to pay them because, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire so I can go do some stupid dances and get famous. It's like, why haven't we got to that point where like, hey, go be a tradesman, go work your ass off, and then you'll reap the rewards of your labor. Actually go out there, put in some effort, and see what it does for you. Because right now, everyone just wants to be lazy and expect the government, like, oh no, the government's going to give me a phone. They're going to give me more money. I'm going to get another stimulus check. It's like, right. Guess what?
Right.
We keep printing money, we're going to be in a bad shape. And it may not be tomorrow, or it may not be 10 years down the road. Like, but at some point, we're going to be in a real bad shape, and you're not going to like it when the U.S. isn't on top anymore.
It's the mentality of, like, if I get fired, I'll just collect unemployment. Yep. Like, when I was younger, if I got fired, when I was younger, and I used to walk uphill both ways in the snow.
You do that well.
Thank you. Shit, I forgot what I was going to think. I just shit my pants. So you got fired, like, you came home in shame. Mom, Dad, what happened? I got fired. No! I mean, the whole world would fucking end. You got fired? How did you get fired? Now it's like, I got fired. That's okay, honey. You can collect unemployment. You can find another job. It'll take you about a year. You'll be all right. Just don't worry about that. Now go ahead and slap your sister. That's not okay.
And in a lot of ways now they're making more on unemployment than they were in that job.
Right.
So they're not incentivized to actually go back and do anything.
Two things. Love the flow today. Just very bam, bam, bam. That's the way it should be. Amy says that guy wrote a ChatGPT essay. No, I think it was Kristen.
That was not ChatGPT. I've used that before. Like that was if that's ChatGPT. ChatGPT needs to be fired, but that was
ChatGPT is actually pretty good. Jay Hennessy says, you don't think that after Vietnam that the U.S. have not trained in guerrilla tactics in Vietnam? We trained the Vietnamese in guerrilla tactics.
Yes.
So we didn't learn anything from the Vietnamese. They learned it from us. Understand this. Fuck, I hate having to do this. MacArthur. Do you guys understand why the Philippines was so very, very important in World War II? Is because that was the last line of defense. If the Japanese would have taken the Philippine Isles, they essentially would have completely dominated the South Pacific and the South China Sea and would have shut off entire logistical support to the American forces and world forces that were fighting the Japanese, and they would have dominated the airfields. And predominantly, most of those Philippine landmasses would allow based attacks against the United States, and that's something that we could not allow because you can't reach from Japan, but you certainly reach from the Philippines in some areas and outer Malaysian islands and things of that effect on strategic U.S. targets. By allowing them to do that, you would have to put American forces. But we learned from Iwo Jima, we learned from other smaller battles that the Philippine Islands, but putting Marine Corps or putting any sort of military force on these islands was horribly inept. Malaria, lack of water, lack of supply and logistics didn't work. So what they did is that they went ahead and they started training Philippine regulars and guerrilla armies in the Philippines. And you take a look at Patton, you take a look at MacArthur, you take a look at the overall leadership. The decision was to create guerrilla warfare tactics, supply line skirmishes, and create a resistance that would interrupt the Japanese to not allow them to build their airfields and to build their bases on the Philippine Islands. And their insurgency would fail where a battalion of Marines would not. And this is where guerrilla warfare in a modern day society was created. Now, Alexander the Great did guerrilla warfare. You can look at Genghis Khan. You can even look in the Civil War. There were little small groups that would do skirmish type fights, but more from a clandestine way, which would be to fire from an elongated, higher elevated position and then flee completely and disrupt the lines of flow of logistics to from the south to the southern armies. Today, you don't see these guerrilla warfare tactics being utilized by the U.S. as much as you see it by the Afghanis, by other terrorist groups. There's one other group that did this also, which was during the same time of Vietnam. This brings our entire conversation. We were talking about this before, which is the cartels. The cartels use these tactics. They use these intimidation tactics. They establish supply lines. They interrupt their competitors' supply lines. They will do things like the Viet Cong, like removing people's genitals and putting it in their mouth, or decapitating them, or putting their heads on pikes. This type of shit was established in the Philippines, and it's what the Japanese did to us. If we learned anything, we learned from the barbaric culture that we started doing in other groups and training other groups in what the Japanese did to us in World War II. The Japanese were a barbaric people. They were absolutely the most terrible, horrific fucking army that we have ever fought because they did psychological warfare better than anybody. So when you say we took things from Vietnam, no. We were training other groups how to do this. The CIA was training drug cartels how to do this, or taking it from the drug cartels and then reapplying it to groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. These are all CIA-created groups, and teaching them how to create fear against Russia or against other states that they were fighting in guerrilla combat. So it wasn't Vietnam that did that. This has been going on throughout military history, but predominantly in Indochina is where a lot of this came from. Did you want to add anything to that?
Well, no, it's just one of those that type of warfare is going to be one of the most effective things that you're going to do. That's why we have units that still train this today, because guess what? If you take 30 guys that live in that area that know, like, that's their backyard, you train them in this and send them back in, you're going to do it better than a battalion going in.
Sure.
Because it's a brand new area. You don't know what's happening. These guys can go in small teams and rain havoc on whoever they're going after, and they're going to have a massive effect on whatever your objective is. So that is one of the biggest tools that we have, and especially now, tell me the last war that we actually fought someone who you knew where your enemy was. Mm-hmm. As soon as they put that weapon down, they're no longer your enemy. Unless you can do things that test, say like, oh yeah, you just shot a gun. Like, well, guess what? Guns are everywhere. We don't know who our enemy is anymore, so you have to have folks that know the area, that know the people, and can fight those battles for us, so that way we can come in with our intelligence apparatus and our weapons in order to get some of the more higher payoff targets. But that warfare, it's never going to go away. It's only getting more dangerous, especially with these drones and these like the first person racing drones they have now, and some of the other stuff that they're doing with Ukraine and Russia to use drones a lot more lethally. And even now with Hamas, I've seen a lot of the tactics that the Russians and Ukrainians are using. Hamas is now using them, and that's just going to continue to add to this guerrilla warfare. Because can you imagine a drone dropping off the head of your commander right in the middle of your unit, and what that's going to do psychologically to everybody? Like, you're going to be done,
dude.
So there's so many ways that this is going to continue to evolve that no one is thinking about, that this is going to get very deadly, and it's going to screw with a lot of people's minds, and people are not ready for it. And the other problem is all this stuff is going to be live streamed with all their GoPros and straight to Twitter and social media so the world can see it.
Two things. There's two sounds that strike fear in the opposition, especially overseas. And Mike can attest to this. The A-10 Warthog.
Yes.
And a drone. That's it. Do you hear those two sounds? You're born to run. Now, Jared says heads on stakes would be on store. Yeah, we know. I just said that. Heads on stakes, you can go to the Vikings. You can go to the Mongolians. You can go to the Arabs. I didn't say that. That's not what I said. I said modern day guerrilla warfare tactics. You saw this in Indochina and Vietnam. You saw it in the Civil War on small cases. The Patriot movie is full of shit. There was nothing like that, okay? There were small groups that did resistance, that took it further than skirmish battles, would lay traps for British logistics, lay traps for officers. Yeah, headhunting officers is not something that was invented in Vietnam. It wasn't invented in the Civil War. It wasn't invented in the American Revolution. It's something that the British desperately tried to get the rest of the world to fight like them because the British outnumbered everybody. They tried to create this mentality of musket to musket was honorable. And honestly, we didn't understand that, and we didn't shake away from it. So a lot of the early colonial generals and officers would fight musket to musket with guys like Cornwallis and Friedrich and other major English forces and get their fucking asses handed to them because they had 10-to-1 ratio of musket to muskets, and they were professionals, and these guys were militia, untrained military. They'd fire their volley way too soon. They wouldn't be able to reload in time, and they would get blown apart by the British cannons. So I understand what you're saying, yes, but what I'm talking about is degrading bodies and doing the psychological stuff was Japanese in World War II were the most barbaric. And you couldn't go back until days like Genghis Khan or go back to the days of Darius to see that level of atrocity that the Japanese did. That I can't even repeat some of the things they did. If you haven't watched or read Killing of the Rising Sun by Bill O'Reilly, go read it, and you'll understand what the Japanese. Go read Killing of the Rising Sun. I think that's the name of the book, and you will understand what I'm talking about. All right. So here's the video. They're trying to take Donald Trump off the ballot in Colorado, and this makes me so sad because my Colorado Avalanche. I mean, I know my hockey team isn't indicative of politics, but I want you to watch this. This is Donald Trump and what he has to say, and we're going to talk about this real quick.
A fake trial is currently taking place to try and illegally remove my name from the ballot. I often say that 2024 will be the most important election in the history of our country. The reason for that and that statement is that our country is being destroyed by people who have no idea what they're doing, or even worse, they may very well have an idea. They may hate our country, and they may want to see it destroyed. But it may also be the last election we ever have. If this election doesn't work, if this election is rigged and stolen, if bad things happen, our country will not survive. If Crooked Joe and the Democrats get away with removing my name from the ballot, then there will never be a free election in America again. We will have become a dictatorship where your president is chosen for you. You will no longer have a vote, or certainly won't have a meaningful vote. And you could say, frankly, that that has already begun. This truly is our final chance to save America, and with the 2024 election now less than 1 year away, this is your chance to take a stand against tyrants that support the one and only movement that can save our country and make America great again. We must win in 2024. If we don't win, we will not have a country. If we do win, we will make America greater than it's ever been before. Thank you.
See, my first question for this is how scared are the Democrats of Donald Trump that they feel that they have to do this?
Well, considering the CIA is using it to fund their revenue.
Exactly.
The drugs. I want to make both comparisons. First of all, Donald Trump, I want you to change the word country to democracy and he sounds just like a Democrat. So the caution is not being, not triggered, but not being activated by certain words and going, yeah, make America great again, MAGA. These are our marching orders. Stop. Just do comparative analysis between who does this sound like. It sounds very much like the liberals. Our democracy is on the ballot. Democracy will end if Donald Trump gets in. We will never be a country that's represented by the people anymore. He'll be a totalitarian. He'll go ahead and he'll be a dictator. The Constitution will be destroyed. Okay, so if people are saying the same thing but changing the dates, times, and window dressing, that should be alarming, okay? I don't like this type of talk. I think this talk is useless, and I think it drums up a base that's already going to vote, and it doesn't bring in any new viewers to or electors to the umbrella. But that's fine. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump's wrong. I'm just saying it's the exact same thing the Democrats are saying about him. So this is getting down into the refuse and the gutter. And honestly, I don't like when Donald Trump does this. I would rather have Donald Trump say the following. They're taking me off the ballot because they know that they can't run against me. They know my numbers from 2016. They know my numbers all the way up until before COVID. They know what we can do with this country. And we're going to send a very clear message in 2024. Something like that would be much better than this. But that's the first side. Now, the second side is what are the Democrats? How afraid are the Democrats? They're absolutely terrified. And Colorado is an experiment to see if they can use judges who are politically motivated, who have donated money to Democrat campaigns, have donated money to the DNC, are fervent supporters, fervent supporters of Donald Trump, are Democrats, and are never Trumpers, to implement policy like they did during COVID to allow and change state election laws through judges, which the Supreme Court just said they can. By removing him from the ballot, what you're saying is that he has not been charged with a crime that he's been found guilty of. He has 91 allegations of criminal misconduct that they are trying to hit him with, but none of these things have stuck yet. You can't preemptively remove somebody. And here is how I'm going to use Democrat logic behind them and how they screwed themselves yesterday. You want me to show you how they did it?
Yes, I want to hear this.
Jamie Raskin came out yesterday. George Santos, I did a show on him. I think George Santos is a complete twat waffle. I'm not a fan of George Santos. Guy has done things allegedly longer than Mike Johnson, which is pretty long. And they were going to remove him from office. And quite a few Democrats stood up, including Jamie Raskin. You know, do-rag, I have cancer, Jamie Raskin, stood up and voted against it and released an amazing statement that I thought was honorable. And I look at it, and honestly, it's not honorable. It's mutually beneficial for him to do this because he knows that this could be weaponized against him.
That was going to be my next thing.
Yeah, and his party. So here's his explanation. And honestly, it's a brilliant political move. I mean, truly brilliant. And I don't give a lot of credit to these guys. But I'll bring it up on screen. And it says the following. And this is important, y'all, because this is letting you behind the scenes, and this is where I don't fuck up. I don't make mistakes on this stuff. This is why they're doing it. I'm a Constitution guy. The House has expelled 5 people in our history. This is all true, by the way. 3 for joining the Confederacy as traitors to the Union, and 2 after they were convicted of criminal offenses. Santos has not been criminally convicted yet of the offenses cited in the resolution, nor has he been found guilty of an ethics offense in the House internal process. This would be a terrible precedent to set. Expelling people who have not been, this is where the Democrats have completely fucked themselves. If and when who have been convicted of a crime and without internal due process. Due process is the key word. citing the old English rule of the process of gaining one's due, right? Of getting the ability to be heard and seen by a jury of your peers and to be criminally charged and jurred through a process of innocence or guilt. This is not due process. If and when, if the presumption of innocence, he could have said when. He said if. It's very, I've got to give Jamie Raskin, this is a brilliant move. If and when Santos is convicted of these serious criminal offenses or ethics charges, I will certainly vote to expel. Until then, it's a very risky road to go down, and we have to stick by due process and rule of law, as obvious as the eventual result seems. I can think of 4 or 5 Democrat members the Republicans would like to expel without a conviction or adverse ethics findings. We can't abandon due process and the rule of law in the House of Representatives. Mike, before I go, tell me what you think of that.
Well, to me, like, it's one of those, this road that you're going to go down, if this would have happened, then all you need is someone to do allegations against someone you don't like. And, oh, now they have some process, like a criminal process against them. And now they're just going to start expelling everyone that they don't like in Congress. So, yes, this is going to open up a very dangerous road, especially with Donald Trump. Like, if you do that for him, when the ethics board actually comes out for all the money that Joe Biden has got, cool. Can you now take him off the ballot because he's gotten money from foreign governments? Like, where does it end once you go down this road? Right. If you don't actually have a true conviction of, yes, we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this individual did this crime, 100% they should not be in Congress.
That's correct.
But if you do it beforehand when there's allegations, how many of these allegations are actually true? Some of them maybe, some of them not. But if you start doing this, like, oh, we think he's going to do this, so now we're gonna kick him out of Congress. At what point are we going to go down the road of, like, oh, I think you're going to do a crime later, so I'm just going to throw you in jail now?
Perfect.
Like this is a road that nobody wants to go down, but because we are so polarized, like, oh, we have to do this because this is the good of the party. Like, if you're saying this is for the good of something, you probably need to check yourself because you're doing it for your own personal gain that is likely not for the good of the people that you're supposed to be representing.
It's collectivism, right? It's not about the individual rights. It's about the group's rights. This is good for people. It's good for us to do this. When you say those things, it's an emotional fallacy. It's a logical it's an illogical fallacy at the same time because you're saying that it's good for all people. Well, that's not the case, and that's why we don't do collectivism here, no matter how much liberals want us to do it. Some guy named Larry says, right and wrong are no longer considerations for the MAGA/Q. So now you're maligning all people who are Make America Great Again with Q. First of all, Q is not a people. Q was a person who released it, and I despise the Anon crowd. Like I've castigated them out from my show. But you're a guy who I would also kick off my show because you're maligning people with Q, and Q is a person. That doesn't make any sense. You watch too much CNN. Q was a person who did data leaks on IRC and other independent web channels that were a series of leaks of information. And the Anons are the people who follow them. The reason why they call them the Anons are the people who remain anonymous. They don't want to be identified. So their names would be Anon 97743 or Anon 12376 or whatever it was. I don't listen to any of these people. And I always listen to them at first. And then let me rephrase that. I don't recite their bullshit. I challenge it. I validate it. And there's things that have been accurate with the Q drops. And there has been a whole bunch of disinformation, which I've battled. But for you to malign Make America Great Again, it's a ridiculous statement. And that would be like me saying the Democrat Antifa party, okay? Don't sit here and pretend that you have shit that doesn't stink, okay? You're a Democrat. You've got your own baggage, and you should not cast stones in a glass house. I think it's ridiculous. So I don't read the rest of your statement because, once again, your opening statement, why do people always establish what their platform is before they have to make a statement? Why couldn't you have just said, Republicans are not concerned about legality and constitutionality, and it's not their focus. Instead, it's all about money and power, not doing what's right, but doing what's possible. That's a fantastic statement. I think it's a statement that's universal for both parties. But because you had to put MAGA in Q and you had to get it in there, you had to go ahead and make a premise and let everyone know what side you're on. You already decided that your statement is invalid because of bias.
See, again, this is where we go back to we can't have a conversation. Of like, hey, I'm going to disagree with you, but like, let's have it out. Let me hear what your opinion is. So then I can come back and if he's already doing that, it's like, oh, I'm going to disagree with you and you're going to be wrong no matter what.
Right.
But let's just have the conversation. Just ask the question.
Yeah, tell me what you think.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
It's easy.
But I don't want to talk to you now because you think that Q is a group of people and it's not, and you haven't done enough research into it. And I despise, listen, do some research and you'll be with me. You'll despise the Q anon folks.
Or did he just discover something that you're really Q? And you're just never going to come out and say,
oh, that's so true. Oh, yeah. So cute. I don't believe in the stolen election. I don't believe in bioweapon labs. I don't believe in lizards. And I don't believe that there's a giant cabal eating children for their blood. Sorry, I don't believe that shit. And why? Because it's not a faith-based situation. It's about facts. See, when people say, I believe, you're saying is that you're taking it on faith. And I don't do that. That's why I struggle with religion, organized religion, because I have questions. And this is how I get them solved, right? I ask. I don't need to go to a church and have some guy in robes throw freaking wafers at me and douse me in wine. I don't need that. I also don't need people saying, I just believe. When people say, I believe, I'm like, so this is your opinion. And then when there's nothing to argue because this is opinion-based. But when you say, this is real, it's some of the worst arguments I've gotten with people. I've lost great listeners because they don't use the word I believe or I think or this is my opinion. They say this is fact. And that's when I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to blow your ass up because it's not fact. It's you making shit up to justify your belief system. And that is not, we've done that enough with interpreting the Bible. We've done that enough with interpreting God. We have changed the word of God in order to have it have a human quality. And that is one of the worst things that we've ever done. Okay, that's it. Here's the thing, the legality of this real quick. Let's dive into this. Jamie Raskin has set himself up in a position where he seems magnanimous right now because he's saving Santos. This is for them. They know for a fact that Donald Trump has to get a conviction on one of these charges, predominantly obstruction, which is an individual's responsibility, right? You can say, well, my lawyer did it, but that lawyer represents you, so the obstruction falls on you. So they can't have some obscure parking ticket. It needs to be obstruction, and that's what they're going after. And this is what I've said all along. He's going to get hit on the obstruction. He's going to lose the obstruction parts. It's just going to happen. Then they can say, Jamie Raskin come out and go, I want you to remember back in November 2nd when I voted, or November 1st, when I voted in favor of keeping George Santos because there wasn't any evidence and he wasn't charged with a crime. Now, I had the same feeling about Donald Trump, no matter how much I disliked him. But I'm here to tell you, as those ethics guided me on the day of November 1st to stay my hand against George Santos, it is the same that's propelling my hand forward against Donald Trump. Donald Trump did break laws. He faced a jury of his peers, and because of this, he is guilty and therefore should be removed and not be able to run from office. It's a perfect setup. And Jamie Raskin is the new Adam Schiff for the Democrat Party because he has cancer and people go ahead and malign with him.
I feel like you just wrote a speech for him.
I did.
And now I want to see
it's going to happen
when this actually happens, if he does you word for word.
This will be the first time that you've seen this. But I promise you, every one of my listeners knows that I'm right. And I am right. And that's what this is. And I promise you, as soon as that first conviction comes down, Jamie Raskin will be on the podium. He will speak in front of the nation and he'll have everyone behind him. He'll have his do-rag on if he's still alive. And I hope he is because I don't want anyone to die of cancer. That's horrible. And Jamie Raskin is just doing what he thinks is best. I may not like the guy, but it doesn't matter. I don't wish him ill. But he will stand up there. And if he has oxygen, that'll be even better. Whatever they can do to make him look as weak and simpy as possible, and he will stand up there and he will do this. And now he has nana nana boo boo, stick your head in doo doo. I did it better than you do. He has this groundwork laid. So it is a brilliant political move. It's absolutely going to happen. And I promise you this is going to be what's laid out. They're going to get Trump on obstruction, and Raskin is going to ask. Now, can Colorado remove Donald Trump from the ballot? No. They will, but this will be absolutely forced, and it'll probably fall in the district courts. So there is a compromised judge. The United States does not like this. The U.S. government does not like seeing compromised judges on either way. This invalidates the system, and the American people aren't going to follow laws if they constantly see laws being broken with unadulterated flatulence, with just no consideration. This is so blatantly fucking obvious that this degrades society, and they want to keep us in line. And the only way to do that is the appearance of that there isn't a second ruling class in this country. So it'll get struck down. It's unconstitutional. First of all, it's a federal election. The states are responsible for running their elections. Their states are responsible for producing their own ballots. The states are responsible for organizing how those elections take place, but they do not get to dictate who's on the ballot and who's not. There are a certain series of guidelines and prerequisites that they agreed to be the party of states, and they have to follow those. They can't make up laws in the middle. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. See, and now that you say that, now with the obstruction charge, I just have a feeling that that in October of next year, that's when all this is going to get wrapped up, because it's not going to allow enough time before the election happens to actually solve it.
Yeah, this is the October surprise for sure. And there always is. And trust me when I say this, a lot of the bombshells that they have on Biden, people are wondering, why isn't Biden being impeached? Because it doesn't make any sense to impeach him, because the damage is already done. The policies that he put in place are going to be affecting us 10 years from now. You don't put Kamala in. Are you kidding me?
Because that's 100 times worse.
And every time you impeach a U.S. sitting president, they go up in the polls. Happened with Nixon, happened with Clinton, and happened with Donald Trump twice. So you don't want to help Joe Biden at all. You don't want to make it seem like he is being hunted. So you bring up some innuendos. You put out there about $40,000 here, $200,000 here. And you slowly lay the groundwork, and that's what they're doing. And then in October, you then bring the big charges, but you don't have it be the Republicans. This needs to come from the Attorney General. You put enough pressure on Wray, and you put enough pressure on Merrick Garland where they have to open up an investigation against Joe Biden. So you strategically do this around October where it does the most damage, because if Republicans open up, nobody's going to listen. But if Merrick Garland goes up there and goes, we have absolute unequivocal reason to open up an investigation against Joe Biden directly, and we're assigning a special counsel, that is going to go over like a freaking helium thin foil grade balloon, and it's going to fly up into the sun, because that is not a lead balloon that Republicans go over just to do political damage. The Democrats are going to go ahead and use the obstruction charges against Trump, just like you said. They're going to time these trials to ultimately do harm to him over a long enough period so October doesn't matter. If they continue to hit him over the next 12 months, that is their strategy, to distract him, to have a constant drip, drip, drip like the Hillary Clinton campaign. So Republicans are going to go put all their eggs in one basket, and Democrats are slowly going to do this like Novocaine.
So what's going to happen when Trump has the verdict handed down in October? Say that's when it happens.
Yes, say that's when it happens, hypothetically.
Joe Biden, that his October surprise is exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
So both either have a conviction or under investigation at the same time, right at election.
Here's the thing. It's a great question, because here's the thing. Joe Biden, he may not be around, right? We don't know. Time is guaranteed to no one. Donald Trump, he may be disqualified from doing this because there's some sort of effort that obstruction comes down, and then there's a multi-state, and then you have like a mini convention of states where certain states all put through a glaring movement, because this is the testing the waters. Colorado is testing this to see what happens. So imagine if, hold on, I've got to extend the show. We're just going to extend it for a few minutes, but I got to do this right now and do it quickly. Otherwise, it'll shut off on Spreely.
Well, and this,
go ahead and keep talking.
To the interesting part of when you say it's going to be a small conglomerate of states, because they don't need all of them. They just need enough. So you don't get 270. So you just need enough states to make it mathematically improbable that he can win, and then you've got it. So you only need a few of them.
Well, here's the thing, is that the last election was decided by 3 states. Okay, 3 states and about 75,000 votes to 90,000 votes. You don't need a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a lot. So if you take Pennsylvania off the map and you take Georgia, for example, first of all, okay, I've said this before. Donald Trump right now has no path to victory. None, zero, zilch, nada. I have done the electoral map. It's either 1 or 72 electoral votes. This is like doing the Avengers thing where, Doctor Strange imagines all the way that Iron Man can get away with saving the universe, and there's only one probability of it happening, right? And that's that one instance. There isn't one for Donald Trump. And I'll tell you why. Because in 2018, he lost votes in the key 7 swing states. In 2020, he lost votes in the key 7 swing states. In 2022, in the midterms, he lost votes in the 7 swing states. And it's not like he lost the same amount. It's been a downward spiral. He hasn't gained in Ohio. And yes, on an individual basis as a Republican, he's killing it in Ohio. He's killing it in New Hampshire. He's killing it in Pennsylvania, of course, because he's the Republican nominee. But when he goes head to head with Joe Biden, the 7 key swing states are the problem. He's going to carry Florida. He's not going to flip California. He's not going to flip New York. He's going to get Texas. But so are the Democrats. And in those 4 state quadrants, Democrats have the edge by like 26 electoral votes. With New York and California and Florida and Texas, they have a whopping advantage coming out of the gate because they have those 2 states. Now, the West Coast isn't called until later, but it doesn't matter. You have to put those in the bank. You always have to make up the deficit. You've got to be in a very strong lead before they call the Western states, because the rest of the country is watching what's happening on the East Coast. So if he doesn't perform well in Virginia, if he doesn't perform well in the Carolinas, if he doesn't perform well in Florida, and those are in Georgia, and they're not called early, the rest of the country will follow suit because everybody likes to pick the winner. Some people just want to pick the winner. Some girls like the uniform when they pick an NFL football team. So understand that there is no path to victory right now. Does that mean it's going to change? Absolutely it can change. But as of right now, there isn't. His electoral map looks pretty bad. So when it comes to Donald Trump, all they need to do is hit a couple of states and take them off the ballot. And then the rest will follow suit. But this is what will happen. Colorado will get a green light on this. Other states will follow. Probably Pennsylvania, probably Georgia are the 2 that have the most blue ballsy move to do this. California, that's stupid to take him off the ballot. They'll probably do it, but there's really no point because there's no chance he's going to win in California. If they do this, it has to be a multi-state effort. It can't. Right now, Colorado is getting a lot of shit from Democrats and Republicans for doing this. But if you start seeing the Democrats rally around the leader like they do very, very well, this could be a national effort and they could tie this up. And then you could have a true convention of states, so to speak, when it comes to the election, where you've got a division inside this country of about a 46 to 54 split. Republicans have the advantage on overall states owned and ran right now. From a legislative standpoint, we have the majority. So in a convention of states, the actual Republicans would win if they all vote along party lines. So this can get very complicated, but right now, a state dropping someone off the ballot is going to be deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. It'll be heard extremely fast, and this will be put to bed very, very quickly. I wouldn't worry too much about it, because here's what's going to happen, okay? I'm just going to tell you. If Colorado does that, then say California, Georgia, and Pennsylvania follow suit, that's fine. We have more red states than they do. Every red state will drop Joe Biden off the ballot. This will become a civil war of election properties. The Republicans will ensure that they rally and drop Joe Biden in retaliation against Trump. They will use their elected federal judges that Donald Trump put in place, and every red state will take Joe Biden off the ballot. It's not going to happen. I would be shocked to see if this thing stands up. I think the Supreme Court will jump in and put this to bed quickly, very quickly, to stop that from happening. But can you imagine?
No, that's where it gets dangerous for me, because once you start there, that division, like you can't come back from it other than going down the road of truly getting to a civil war. So that's a very dangerous start.
Very.
And this is what the U.S. is known for. We don't look at the second and third order effects of what's happening. We just look at, this is what I need right now, and that's all I care about. That in the long run, this is going to hurt way more than it's going to help anything. So again, we're so short-sighted in what we're looking at that it's going to do a lot of damage. So it's going to be interesting. I hope the Supreme Court does what it needs to do, or I hope it doesn't even get to that point where it needs to.
Well, I hope the district courts do it, but the Supreme Court is inherently conservative. They're voting, it's like 92% conservative right now. They're doing I have no problem with the Supreme Court. A lot of people don't like them. And one of the only rulings that I have a problem with is overall that states can use judges and emergency powers to alter states' elections, but they can. And you need emergency powers for judges to do that and not legislators, because legislators won't supposedly be unbiased and care about being blind in justice. We all know it's not true. The legal system is not unbiased anymore, but that's the perception of our legal system that needs to stay intact, because if it doesn't, we lose our society. So a lot of people are saying, hey, Matt, why aren't you a campaign manager? Because nobody wants me, because I tell them the truth. And they won't listen. Predominantly, most politicians are egomaniacal and they don't want to hear the truth. It's just the reason why I got out of corporations and I got out of private businesses. I have tried to help businesses be successful and they don't listen. Oh, business owners don't care. They don't want to hear the truth. It's that your product's too expensive. You need to decrease your margins. You need to increase your advertising revenue. You need to do this. We need to cut payroll. They don't want to hear the truth. They just want to run things BAU and blame everyone else and fire those people instead of taking responsibility. That's why I will never, ever work for a major corporation again, and I will not work for private business. I'm done. I've retired. I am doing this full time, and I will do this until I die or something better comes along. But I'll never be a campaign manager because they won't listen. They won't hear me. The one thing I love about Brandon Michon is he would come over here when he was running and he would ask my opinion, and then I would see it change in policy. That's why I love Brandon. And even though we don't talk all the time, I admire him because he ran for office and he would come over here and he would ask my opinion. And then when he would do Fox News or he would do interviews, I would hear some of the things we talked about that he adopted because he truly believed in some of the things that I said and liked my points. That's somebody who I could work for. I could work for an Eli Crane because he'll listen, because I could go into an office and say, bro, you're fucking up. Donald Trump wouldn't do that. Donald Trump doesn't want to hear from me, but I know politics. And if you haven't seen the show, we shine on politics. I could go watch 2020 show in 2022. I predicted every single race in 2022. There was not one I was wrong about. I'm very good at this, and I know the electoral map, and I understand the candidates running, and it's really a fun time on the show. So we want you to stop by. We'll talk more about this when we get to November. Other than that, I think that's all we have. You want to leave them with the one Nancy Pelosi snippet, and then we'll bounce, Mike?
Now I got to remember what that one is.
That's okay.
Is that a video?
Yeah, it's a video you sent me. Just quick speculation. Everyone listen to this.
Pursuant to Rule 8 of the Rules of the House of Representatives, that I, the Honorable Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Emerita and U.S. Representative for the 11th Congressional District of California, have been served with third-party subpoenas from the prosecution and the defendant to produce documents in a criminal case in the United States District Court for the Northern District of California. After consultation with the Office of General Counsel, I have determined that compliance with the subpoenas is consistent with the privileges and rights of the House to the extent it requires.
Okay, what do you think that is?
So I think this is the start of the insider trading that her and her husband have been doing forever. Of now they're getting to the point where it's like, cool, we likely already have these documents. I want you to give whatever your records are, so that way we can see what you're trying to hide or what you don't. And then we're going to come at you with, okay, we know all these things. There's no mathematical probability with your salary other than you providing that insider trading to get to the millions of dollars that you have. And your husband doing all these amazing trades just before a big contract is signed, or selling off right before a company goes down the drain, or gets the government goes after him just because of whatever they're doing. So
yeah,
is likely the start of it. We'll see where it goes. But again, this is one of those elites that have been around forever.
Yeah.
Just like what they're trying to do with Donald Trump. This is going to get watered down to something where it's like, okay, here's a little fine. We're not going to take all your money that you've embezzled. So we'll move on from there.
So I agree with you on a couple of things. And I want to take it from a different angle quickly.
Okay.
I want you to imagine this is not about Nancy Pelosi, and this is about Donald Trump. Is she being it? Because what is Nancy Pelosi known for? The two things she's known for beyond anything else?
Besides the insider trading?
Yeah.
I don't know. What
went after Trump and fundraising. She's the single biggest fundraiser contributor to the DNC and individual campaigns in Democrat history. This woman has raised over, I think, $375 million for the Democrat Party. She's like Kevin McCarthy. She is a fundraising machine. But the big claim to fame is her going after Donald Trump. She led the initiative on the J6 Commission. She led the document scandal. She tore up the frickin' State of the Union behind him. She spoke bad about him. She tried to block him every single way. She rallied the Democrats against him. All of these things. What if she is being subpoenaed and they're opening up House records so they can either A, remove him from the ballot, or possibly go ahead and open up J6 findings, or open up some sort of election fraud like Georgia has. This is a strategic move to lay the groundwork to use her as a keystone in an investigation for California to do XYZ against Trump. To me, there's no reason for the clerk to get up in front of C-SPAN and do that without an explanation from her office. I don't believe we have that yet. So and it leaves it in the air.
Is this the way for them to get Pelosi as a material witness and get her?
Yep. That's one way you do it. So that's exactly how you do it. I'm putting in this should be Nancy Pelosi serves subpoena related to California. Okay, so let's go into it. Is there a statement from Nancy Pelosi? Fox News says that she was served a subpoena to produce documents in a criminal case. After Constitutional General Counsel have determined compliance, Pelosi's office declined to comment on the ongoing legal matter, but sources familiar with the situation told Fox News the subpoena was related to the upcoming trial of Paul Pelosi's alleged assailant in the violent home last year. Okay, so that would make sense that Nancy Pelosi would make it deflect away from her and make it about Paul Pelosi and this, because to gain the empathy vote. The fact that she did not testify or release a statement leaves ambiguity up in the air. So we don't know what this is about. This could be about Paul Pelosi. This could be the insider trading allegations since 2012. And this could also be opening up cases to the state of California. So Gavin Newsom or somebody else can go ahead and move towards, maybe even Adam Schiff in his Senate bid can actually open up some sort of charges against Donald Trump. So there's a lot of things it could be. Let's avoid speculation and just say that that's going to be intriguing. We'll continue to follow it. We didn't get to the police one. I want to do that on the next show. We'll do that Friday night.
Okay. Yes. That'll work.
Good.
Yep.
Mike, you get last word. You get 1 minute, and then we're going to go. Sorry, we're a little bit over, but I felt like we were in a good rhythm. So we had a lot of people on. So Mikey, go ahead. Last word.
I think this was a great show. I think starting with some of the feels and opening up a little bit. I don't know. At least for me, that was good.
Love you, man. Love you, man.
It hits right here. No, right. I mean, I think that.
Excuse me. Sorry. Those were some of my feels.
That's all the feels you got. That's all. We have one feel.
Just wait. You'll see how good that feel was in a second.
No, I just like to see that side of it, because I think a lot of veterans out there, they will hide that and they will make sure that is not put out there. So,
yeah,
I do like showing that side. Just like, hey, you're not alone. You're not the only one that feels this way. We're just doing it in a much more public way than most people do.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it was another good show. We, I don't know. I just enjoy our banter and everything that we can do. So it's anytime we can do these, doesn't matter what we're talking about. We'll find a way to make it interesting.
Yeah. That's what it's all about.
And I'll learn these buttons, and I'll learn to get these a little bit better. But eventually, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. I'm sure what that had to do with anything. I mean,
I just want to press a button. That's how it goes.
Here, listen to this one. This one's great. Watch it.
Donald Trump is sexy.
That's AI.
That is.
Here's AI too. Listen to this one.
Would you rather your child had feminism or cancer?
Here's
Birth control makes women unattractive and crazy.
AI is the greatest thing in the world, dude. Because I've
you
created.
Make them say whatever you.
Oh yeah, I've created some great ones. Even your video, the green crayon is AI.
AI is taking over. That's going to be the wave of the future. So if you haven't learned about it, learn it.
It's awesome. The only thing I'll say is this: we try not to do a lot of advertising on the show. I want you to do me a favor. Go over to Spreely.tv and follow Dominic Izzo. I'm going to do a longer show on it just to talk about what we talked about today. Is that when you see someone who's maybe verbose or they're confrontational or maybe they're foul language, is they're looking for something. And I would challenge people to try to see through the muck and the grind and the tough exterior and find out people's root cause. And this is something about Dominic Izzo that I got to love. This guy helped me get connected with Spreely TV. He had no reason to do that. My channel on Facebook is a little bit bigger than him. He has a bigger profile on me than Instagram. Definitely on Spreely TV. We're in the top 5. He's right up there with Patriot Barbie and does a great show. And I know our show's going to do well over there. And the fact that he stopped and helped somebody, and he had a great statement today, and it was pretty simple. And I'll paraphrase, but you you can't be mean to people, and you can't be an asshole and still be a Christian. I thought that was a very interesting statement and helped me self-reflect. And even though a lot of people think Dominic's that way because he's to the point, he's blunt, he's direct, he's a good find, he's a good egg, and he helped me, and he didn't have to. There was no reason for him to. So wanted to say thank you, Mike. Appreciate you on. Go over to The Dumb Show, thedumbshow.com. You can pick yourself up a shirt. Shipping for Christmas. Yeah, shipping for Christmas. Right now you can save 10%. We've got some great stuff over there. We're going to add some long sleeves and some hoodies. It's time. I know people love their hoodies. But go over to thedumbshow.com, spend some time over there, and we will see you guys.
We'll see you Friday night.
Friday night, and I'll have a recorded show for you tomorrow. I'm only going to do 2 this week. It's been too busy. So God bless, and we will see you on Friday.
Take care, everybody.
Maybe.